Welcome to Twice 5 Miles Radio, fertile ground for conversations worth listening to and remembering. I'm your host, James Navé. This show always airs every weekend on WPVM FM in Asheville and KCEI Cultural Energy Radio in Taos. Thank you, Walter Parks, for our theme song. WalterParks.com for more on Walter's music. If you would like to reach me, Navé at jamesnavé.com. Navé is spelled Nave. Here's a little reminder. If you enjoy writing and would like to join our Imaginative Storm writing gathering, which takes place every Saturday, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and every Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's always free, and when you join us, you'll have time to take part in some generative writing and some salon conversations, which are always quite fun. You can find the link by going to jamesnavé.com. Just below the fold, you'll see the information. Today, I'm lucky to have Juliet Ewing as my guest. I first met Juliet at a Christmas party 20 years ago in New York City, where she was standing at her sister's piano singing Christmas tunes in a most professional manner, which was quite impressive, which she could easily do because she was a professional singer and a Broadway actor. Today, she continues with that work. She's known as an exciting, masterful interpreter of the great American songbook. She's equally at home in jazz clubs and on concert stages. She's following in the footsteps of Ella Fitzgerald and Peggy Lee in that she can swing when she so desires, yet also stays connected to the rich and musically diverse songbook singing tradition that these great ladies of song exemplified. Fun yet elegant, Juliet's artistry is timeless. So now let's move to the conversation I recently had with Juliet. I began by asking her to talk about creativity, which is the energy source for all the things we make. So before we move into what Juliet said, I'd like to just give you a quick sample of her singing style, which will warm you up to hear what she has to say about creativity. Here's Lady Be Good.
I'm all alone in this big city. I tell you, I'm just a lonesome baby in the wood. So, lady, be good to me.
So now you have a sense of Juliet Ewing's singing style. Now, here's what she had to say about creativity, which starts our conversation.
Everyone can be creative. Some people are more naturally prone to it. I find that it's hard to schedule it, though. It's like, today I'm going to be creative. And I keep thinking, well, I can rehearse a certain amount of hours. Like, I'm going to rehearse from 11 to 1. That's what I'm going to do. But to be creative, it's like, it's a whole other state of mind. But I find it's hard to schedule it for myself.
I've come around to thinking that creativity was scheduled for us when we were born. It's what keeps us alive. Everything we do is based on the imaginative process, and using that imaginative process, which is something that we always can use because we visualize into the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a natural thing. I mean, even if you're not doing anything that you think is officially creative other than just cleaning the soup bowl,
Yeah.
you still are engaged in that anticipatory, imaginative process of what will come next.
Sure. Yes.
And I'm starting to think that when we talk about creativity, you and many people, almost everybody, probably everybody, we're actually discussing organization and structure more than we're discussing creativity.
Yeah, I think it's almost like, for me, the structure of a rehearsal. Okay, I'm going to work with my arranger from these 2 hours. We set a time, and we're prepared for them. We come in and at first it's just, rudimentary, let's learn this or let's decide. And then once we're relaxed and in the moment, then we come up with interesting things. I can relax and do different things with my voice, or he comes with different arrangements. It's the kind of the chaos within the structure is how I feel. From 11 to 1, we're going to work. We have a few songs we're going to think about and try or not, whatever. And then we have the freedom to be creative. For me, that is the best way to do it because life gets in the way of everything else. I'm always thinking about things and I wake up in the middle of the night and I always have a song going through my head, either a song I'm learning or a song that is on my record or that I'm going to sing next week. Always. It's like that chaos. If I can schedule it in these couple hours, I'm going to do this.
When people are talking about creativity, they tend to undersell the natural creativity that's going on, like the chaos that you're describing. They tend to say, well, I am not very creative because I can't find the time to do work that I would like to do. So they're blaming it on what they think is their lack of creativity, when in fact, it's their inability or unwillingness or busyness that disallows them from organizing in a category that will allow that part of the creative nature to emerge.
Wonder how most people feel creative. I always am more creative, or my mind goes to more creative places when I'm physically active. One of my favorite things to do is take a bike ride around Central Park, like an e-bike, just an easy 6 miles. It's like 20 minutes. And I find there, when I'm away from my phone, I'm in nature and I'm moving, that my mind can go creative, like songs I want to do or ideas for cabarets, or when you're in nature, you can just let your mind go. I'm up in my lake house now and I find that I'm very creative at night. I think about new songs. I'm listening to people. I'm inspired. I'm like, what do I want to do next? And that allows me to feel more like I can create in that moment. Finally figured it out for me. It's not sitting in a classroom, it's being outside, it's in the air, it's moving.
That I would suggest or submit generally is how the body responds to these kinds of environments. And if you have enough wherewithal or sense or ability or at least a bit of wisdom to go circle around the park once or twice, your body will begin to engage in its natural inclination toward making things.
I also think it's related to being joyful because I'm very creative when I'm happy. Happy with my family, or I got a great gig, or I hear a wonderful song, I'm inspired. And I was listening to Ella Fitzgerald sing George Gershwin, and she started singing Things Are Looking Up. And that is one of my favorite songs that is from the show Crazy for You, which I did like 300 times, but it wasn't my song. The opening line is a verse that people don't normally do, and it's kind of an unusual Gershwin song. And the opening line is, if I should suddenly start to sing or stand on my head or anything, don't think that I've lost my senses. It's just that my happiness finally commences. And I said, that is like the perfect. So now I open all my sets with that song. I said, this is says it all. It's not a famous song, but it's Gershwin. It's like, this is my happiness. I'm starting to sing. And if I start doing this, I'm not crazy. I'm just in my joyful space. And I remember riding around the park and hearing her sing this. Oh, this is going to be the opening of my cabaret show. And it always works. And it makes everyone happy and it makes me happy. So it's funny when you, like you said, you're out moving, the joy comes, the creativity comes, and then it sparks one thing. It's so fun when that happens. I was inspired by Ella Fitzgerald because I come from theater. It always starts with the lyrics, always. I had a singer say to me one time, she goes, I can tell you're more cabaret theater than jazz because you always go to the lyric. And I was like, that's a funny thing to say, because to me, any singer who's communicating, it has to be through the lyrics. And I remember speaking with an instrumentalist talking about this. He's like, I'm envious of you because you have the lyrics. I said, I know people want to hear the words, and I always go to the lyric first. I have to connect with it. I have to feel it. It has to speak to me. And then I feel like I can do a good job communicating it to whoever is listening or just to myself. But that song in particular sparked me on my journey to be authentic about the Gershwin. And what I love about it, Gershwin's lyrics are just perfect.
Would you tell us more about how your theater background has informed your singing career and just build out on that a bit? Because talking about the park and imagination and creativity, and then you moved naturally into how these lyrics are perfect for you. So talk about that some, just build that out a bit.
As you said, I started my career in theater. I studied musical theater. I had my whole career in live theater, starting out with regional theaters, musicals, all musicals. I ended up doing big international tours, two big shows, Crazy for You, which is a Gershwin show, and a great tap show called 42nd Street, doing leading roles in that. Then I ended up doing a national tour of the musical Footloose, and then I did that on Broadway. And so my whole life was always in theater, and I love building characters. And as we were speaking about, I love the lyrics. I always feel like I can't do justice to a song unless there are great lyrics. So some songs and some shows don't have the best lyrics behind them. But I always found when I was doing Crazy for You, I did it for over 300 performances internationally and in the United States. And I always found I never got sick of that music because the lyrics were so good. Some shows you do it, 20 times, 30 times, and you're like, I cannot hear these stupid songs ever again. And I will say it's some of the more pop music shows that really don't speak to me. But those lyrics in particular really spoke to me. And so I started my Gershwin journey from there. I've always been in the theater, so I kind of took a little bit of a left turn after the pandemic. I hadn't been doing theater for a while. I was raising my family, and I got back into singing. And I had an opportunity to do a night, Valentine's, at Tavern on the Green in New York City with my new arranger and friend. And we were working together trying to put some songs together. And I kept bringing up Gershwin songs. And we started talking about it. I said, you love Gershwin so much. So I love the Gershwin songs. They really speak to me. Ira Gershwin's lyrics just go right to my heart. And so we started developing a cabaret show. He said, you should really pursue that. So I started making a list of my Gershwin songs, the songs that spoke to me, the songs that I had sung or just loved, some unusual songs. And from there, I started building out my cabaret show, starting with the Gershwin. So that put me on my way.
Theater, singing, there's a big difference in someone on the stage with one other person having a theatrical exchange. Big difference between that and singing. Or is there? When you develop your singing characters, which are represented by the song, how much theatrical work do you do in developing those characters or those songs? Subtext, super objective, all the things you bring into the theater. How do you do that with songs? And what makes a good lyric a lyric? What makes a good verse a verse?
As far as singing in theater versus singing with my jazz trio or in a club, there's more focus, obviously, when you're in a musical where you really have to have the perspective of that character. So how your character is feeling, what is your character's objective in that moment? That is very specific, and it has to be specific to do a good job in theater. You spend a lot of time reacting to the people around you, and it's very reactionary, whether it's film and television or theater, it's a live moment. And it's not always about beautiful singing, which I try to give beautiful singing because I appreciate that and I'm more of a trained singer. But you don't have to be a beautiful singer to be a great theater performer. You have to be able to communicate to the audience, be authentic, get the job done in that way. But I will say when I now sing with my trio or just my pianist, I always look at each song as if it's a little mini monologue, not as specific as I have to be this character in this scene and I'm a certain age and my objective is this, but always there's got to be thought behind it because the way I approach singing, and it might be different than, say, a pure jazz singer, which in my mind sometimes is just about the sound, about being creative vocally in the moment. And sometimes it's about the gymnastics you can do with your voice and the cool things you can do to entertain your band. And that's really fun. But I always start with, does this song speak to me? I can't sing songs ever that have stupid lyrics, whether it's a song from the 1930s or it's a song on the radio today. I try to move in some of the more pop tunes into my sets when I sing at restaurants or more casual places with kind of a big age range. But if it's a dumb song, I don't feel like I do a good job of it. And they sound ridiculous when you sing them not in a studio with your whole, pop band behind it. It can sound really dumb. But so I always have to go through a good lyric. And there are some great pop songs out there that have great lyrics. And I sing those songs when I'm in that situation. But I always approach every song. If I want to do a good job and feel like I'm connected to it, I start with the lyrics. What is this person in the song? Maybe not, quote, a character, but what does this person want in this song? And am I going to be able to get it? I remember when I was working on my Gershwin album and I was in the studio and we had recorded a song that I had never really sung live. I didn't work on it much. It was such a famous song that I was a little gun shy of it. I said, everybody famous has sung the song. And I was working with my producer and pianist, Ted Firth, who's a really experienced guy. And he said, let's just try it. So we worked on The Man I Love, which is one of the most famous Gershwin songs ever. And we sang through it 3 or 4 times. We said, let's just put it down. And it was just a piano and me. And we got into it, and it was very spontaneous, talking about creativity. I didn't know when his intro was going to be over. I just listened and I heard it. And then I sang the first part of the song and felt very connected. And he did this incredibly beautiful piano solo in the middle that wasn't really even set. And it's on the album. And then I came back in and I finished it. And I was so proud of it because it felt so pure. It was the character of me singing the song, but it felt like a character trying to get what she wants. And I remember when we listened back to it in the studio, like, let's just hear it goes. And I listened, I said, wow. And it was almost disembodied experience. I listened to this person, this character singing the song. In the end, I said, that poor woman's never going to get what she wants. Whoever that person was inside me singing that song, she's never going to get the man I love. Those lyrics just hit so hard almost 100 years later. That song was written in 1924. It still works because it's so authentic. It's not too flowery. This is what I want to get. Someday he'll come along. The man I love, maybe it'll be Sunday, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, maybe not. And they're so pure and they're so simple. And to me, that is the great lyric. It's not overly flowery. It's conversational. They were contemporary lyrics. They had come into the era of not being so operetta or opera-like. They were just how people spoke. And that was a big deal. So I could say those lyrics to you, and it could be a conversation. I can sing it to you, and hopefully it'll break your heart. Those are the best lyrics. They feel authentic. They feel natural. I can speak them to you, and it just sounds like we're having a conversation.
Do you think the great lyrics like that are great because they offer a universal sensibility that has multiple layers? Would that be one of the reasons why they're great?
You're right. There are multiple layers, and they appeal on a broader level because this is what I want. But to me, the joy in the lyrics is when it gets very specific. Like the general idea is someday he'll come along, the man I love. But then when she says, he'll build a little home just meant for two, from which I'll never roam, who would you? And to me, that's very specific. It's like you can see what this woman is thinking. Maybe to my mind, this character or this person singing the song had a love affair and she left. And she's like, but now I'm never going to roam. Would you do that? Because I wouldn't do that. It gets so specific to me. That's why it's so wonderful, because you understand exactly what this person is saying. You get the general idea what you're speaking about, but the layers, like you said, underneath it, they're so specific, they really just break your heart.
And do you think the pop songs, the ones you feel are not that great to work with, are leaning more in the direction of trying to be generally popular without that specificity? Because I'm thinking the Gershwin songs are rising from another time, grounded to the rhythm of the economy, the rhythm of the earth, the rhythm of the struggle. And country music has that specificity. Do you think the Gershwin tunes, the country tunes that have that specificity, have it because of those layers, and the popular tunes that you've referenced that you're not particularly interested in, the boo-bop, da doo ba boo, ba doo ba da ba bop, bop, ba doo ba ba ba, doesn't say much. People bop around to it. Do you think that specificity is shared with country tunes and other genres as well?
I think so. I think that's an excellent point because I've often said country music tells a story, and same thing in musical theater. And I used to always advise people who wanted to get their kids into music, because I'm into music. How do I get my kids into music or to like theater? I said, all you have to do is on your car ride, you put in a song from a musical because it tells a story. And I've noticed my kids, they be quiet and they listen because there's a very specific story being told and they are drawn in and they want to know what's happening. They hear the story, they're like, and they pay attention, whether it's My Fair Lady, Get Me to the Church on Time, or it's a more contemporary, something from Rent, or A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, or the great show Six, which is all about Henry VIII's 6 wives. They're so specific and people are drawn and they listen. And I feel the same in country music, because to me, musical theater and country are very similar. A lot of the pop tunes are just there to have fun and they're fun lyrics. There are some great pop writers out there. I think, Taylor Swift is a great writer. A lot of her songs are generic, but some are so specific. They really break your heart, especially earlier when she was leaning towards country. And Chapel Roan has some great fun, very specific, funny lyrics. So Sabrina Carpenter, she's a big pop hit, but she cracks me up because those lyrics, they're funny. She's got such a sense of humor, and I appreciate those. I think when I'm listening to a song and I can predict the rhyme, to me, it's a bad song. Like, I know what's coming next here. I know what they're going to rhyme. This is not a surprise. Like, that's not a good song. That's how I kind of judge it.
Thank you for reminding me that Taylor Swift started out in the country genre.
Yeah.
And that would explain how she was able to develop her early skills, then transfer them over to her songs now, which fill up those stadiums in her tour. When people talk about Taylor Swift, they say, she is me singing. Those are my stories.
Yep. They're stories, exactly. And for me, it's always the story. I mean, storytellers, either if you're an actor or a singer or you're running a podcast, you're telling a story and people want to hear stories. Your friends tell good stories, you listen in, joke telling, you get something on Instagram or a reel and it's telling a little story. People want the beginning, middle, end. And for me, that's what I always try to bring when I'm doing my cabaret act, which is more theater, a little to the side of theater, or when I'm just singing in a jazz club. And I find when I tell the story, if I'm really focused and people are a little quieter, they're drawn in and they want to hear the story and they're very moved by it. The vocal gymnastics and that stuff is always fun to do and people are entertained by that. But when you sing a ballad, you better bring the emotion, whether you're singing My Funny Valentine or At Last or a Gershwin song, you better be in the moment because people want to experience it. I would say it's the same with opera. People go to opera because they want to see these big emotions and maybe they can't express themselves, but they enjoy seeing someone else go through it and they feel part of it. I finally figured that out as an adult. I'm like, why are we going to all these crazy operas? Like, that's so ridiculous. Story's so crazy. La Traviata, Aida, like, come on. And now as an adult, I'm like, I get it. The people, they want to feel these emotions because I can express my emotions through theater and singing and I get that satisfaction, but a lot of people can't. So they want to see the singer or hear the band or watch the opera singer, live that so they can experience it. So comes with age, I guess, wisdom.
Let's hope we have a little bit of wisdom when our age comes on us. Speaking of narrative, you've been at this a long time. I met you a long time ago. You were singing back then. I remember you sang the Christmas songs at the Christmas party I attended when I first met you. I know your brother, Paul Jerome Ewing, PJ Ewing. He likes to answer the phone. Paul Jerome here. He loves opera, and he has a great radio show on WPVM FM where this show airs, and his radio show goes all over the place. Lester the Nightfly, it's called. And I know you've been at this a long time. And yet every day from a creative point of view is a brand new day. You start over the moment you wake up and you move into the next beat. I'd like for you to tell us about this brand new album. The reason I'm engaged with you is because PJ told me, guess what? Juliet has got something coming out really soon. I'm so excited. You've got to check it out. You should interview her. So I said, okay, PJ, I'll interview your sister. I know her. It'll be fun. Tell us all about how your momentum has taken you to this place, creating an album that has all these beautiful songs that we all know, and yet they're new for you. How did that happen?
When I started working with my arranger a couple years ago, kind of happenstance, I was invited to sing a gig at the Tavern on the Green in New York City for Valentine's Day. We started working on just putting tunes together. And then after we had this really fun gig, we said, let's work together some more. And I kept bringing Gershwin tunes. And he said, you should do a Gershwin cabaret. And I said, oh. To me, that was the final thing that I hadn't done in my life. I did a Broadway show. I was in national tours. I was in small shows. I did little mini operettas. I had sung pop tunes. I'd kind of done everything. But to me, it was like the final challenge to do a solo cabaret show, which seemed terrifying to me. I'm like, how do I do that? So for me, I said, okay, this is a challenge. And he said, I think you should try. My arranger, Ron Drodos, who arranged all the pieces on my album, he said, you should do a Gershwin cabaret. And so we worked together for about a year, putting together arrangements, and I wanted it to be jazzy, not pure jazz, but theatrical with like a jazz twist to it. So we developed it over a year, and I learned all these crazy scats and put together these really fun arrangements for piano, bass, and drums, and we worked every week. And I remember walking around my garden with my iPads on, trying to learn this epic 16-bar vocalese, which is when the vocalist sings exactly note for note with the instrument. And it was this crazy thing in the song I Got Rhythm. I said, I'm going to learn this. So I'm gardening, I'm listening and learning all this stuff. And then I did my cabaret show. I ended up doing once, twice, three. I did it 4 times. I sold that out 4 times in New York City at the Cabaret Space Don't Tell Mama, which is a wonderful place to sing. And, we said, I think I should make an album. I've never made an album. I've sung all kinds of genres. I've made other people's albums and little mini studio albums for other people. And I said, I'm going to try my own. So we decided to do this. I found a wonderful producer named Ted Firth, who's really kind of a giant in the cabaret and jazz world. Ted Firth is Michael Feinstein's band leader, and the bass and drum that he hired that are now my friends also play with Michael Feinstein. So I had total pros, and my arranger and pianist Ron Drodos played. I said I really need a calling card because I'm back in the business now. I'm working with my jazz trio. I'd done theater. I really need something to let people know that I'm serious about this, and I can sing this music, and I'm here to stay. So we developed that way, and it was such fun. It was a real challenge. It was 2 full days in the studio, long days. Last October. It takes a long time to put these albums together. That was the shocker for me, because they're hiring the producer and getting the musicians and making sure the charts are perfect, and then rehearsing it, and then getting in the studio for a couple days. And so it takes a long time. And then you've got to, do the editing and the mastering and the printing and the hiring of the people to help people, become aware of the album. So it really took a longer than I thought. It was so joyful. And the songs they're like little babies to me. Each one is a gem. Each one I love. 90% of them are well-known songs. There's a couple songs in there that are not well-known. A couple I had to cut. We just had too much good material, so maybe I'll release them another time. I love them all because like we were saying, the lyrics speak to me really deeply. And people know these songs. I wanted to present songs that people knew or had heard of a little bit, but put them in kind of a different way. Not a crazy esoteric way, but the way I would want to hear them, jazzy spin on them, but always heartfelt, and present them to people in a new way. So that was kind of the journey of the album.
Learning note for note while you were walking in the garden got my attention. How do you do that?
I think everyone thought I was insane because I was walking around with my little AirPods in. First, you start just basically learning the notes at the piano. And, that was tricky because my arranger really writes for instrumentalists. So sometimes he forgets that as a vocalist, the jumps and within the voice are a little different and the key changes. So we worked around that. First, you just really learn it note for note at the piano very slowly. And then I do it on my own. And then I put it on my little voice memos and I listen to myself singing it. I find that I'm much better learning music when I listen to myself singing these songs as opposed to someone else or just a piano, whatever the brain connection is there. Maybe it's because you imagine yourself singing it, you hear yourself. I learn better that way. So I would just wander around and go back and forth, rewind, get that little half step in there because it was really tricky, all these chromatic steps and weird jumps in the song I Got Rhythm in particular. It was hard. And so it just took a lot of time, and it was slowly, and then I would perform it. I think it was last summer I did it kind of at a local jazz, kind of like an open mic thing. And we tried it out a couple times just to get it smoother. And then I finally got it into myself. And even it took a long time. That was a hard one. But now it's like a piece of cake. Like I can do it. I can wake up in the middle of the night and do it. No problem. I don't have to think about it at all. But it's repetition. You have to start things slowly, very slowly, whether you're learning, a complicated scat or just the melody. You have to go slowly. And I don't know what it is about our brains. I have to look at the notes. I have to think about it. I have to get it in my voice. It's like a 3-step process to learning new songs. So it took a long time, and I would wander around clipping my roses, scatting to I Got Rhythm. So if any of my neighbors saw me, I'm sure they thought I was totally insane, but it worked. It's my method.
The roses were bouncing around in the wind as you sang.
Yeah.
I am curious about perfection. You said you have to get this right eventually. What is your relationship with perfectionism? And as a professional singer, vocalist, how do you use the drive to get it right to your advantage rather than to your disadvantage?
I think we're really hard on ourselves, and I know I am. Perfection to me at a live gig is different than perfection in the studio, in the recording studio. And that was very different for me to realize. It was jarring. Because if I'm live and I sing a song that I feel, vocally was confident and fun, and I could feel the energy in the room. Like if I do a Beatles song, Can't Buy Me Love, simple song, but we do fun things with it. But when I get to the point when I start improvising and making up things and I feel kind of a buzz in the audience and I can feel people enjoying it, to me, that's perfection. The audience is responding. They are happy. They are enjoying it. Or maybe it's a sad song and I really feel them, being drawn in. That's perfection as a live singer. I've sung the songs I intended and I feel a connection with the audience. They are happy. I'm happy. There's a moment that we experience together. Perfection in the studio was something I had to learn because I would listen to the playbacks and I'd be emotionally committed, but I felt like the song wasn't vocally perfect. So there's a fine line. They do all that. They can do a little auto tuning or correct notes. And we did a tiny bit of that, really not much. But I was really upset when we ever had to do it. But you realize that you give a lot emotionally, let's say recording in a studio, but it has to translate onto the album. It can't be so overwrought that it's ridiculous. It's different when you see Bernadette Peters sing live and she's crying and you're crying. But when you hear it on an album, it's a different experience. So the emotion has to be there. But the voice, to me, has to be pure and accurate as well. So it's layers. It's the emotion, but underneath it, you have to have vocal perfection. Audio has to be just right. It was a learning curve for me. And you realize most of us listen to music now in our headphones. A lot of people do. It has to be really perfect. Whereas I think way back when, if you're listening to a record or you're at a disco or whatever, the music, it hits you differently. But in my album in particular, it's just me, piano, bass, and drums. So there's not a lot of noise around it. You don't have, like all the beats, and you don't have crazy drums. It's not electronica. You can't hide in that. It has to be perfect, but it has to be authentic. I didn't want to make a sanitized album where you didn't feel the emotion. And I feel that can happen sometimes when I hear vocal albums, and I didn't want that either. So I think and I hope I straddled the line to having, beautiful music, beautiful sounds, perfection as far as the notes and the purity, but the emotion in it. And I go back to that. So the ballads, to me, really, you can feel that more when I sing Embraceable You, which was my latest single. That is emotional. And you can feel it.
You've given me some insight as you were talking about perfection. When I hear people talk about perfection, and often when I talk about it, I think of it as a fixed star, almost the end point. I want this to be perfect. In your explanation just now, I realized perfection is not an end point. Perfection is a need to harmonize with the circumstances that are required within the created moment.
Well, you said that beautifully. Like you said, it's not a fixed point. It's in the moment. And as a vocalist, and I'm sure as instrumentalists might feel the same, my voice is different every day. If I wake up a little tired, maybe it's a little lower, maybe it's gravelly. Maybe as the day goes on, my voice gets to be a higher pitch, or late in the evening, it feels different. And every day, environment and emotion can impact your voice. So every day, it's a little bit different. So the danger can be is if you go into a studio and you record a song and then you want to fix it, and then you go back in a month or two, or even the next day, your voice is a little bit different. And I noticed that when I tried to re-record, said, I didn't really like this phrase. I went back a few months later, said, let me try to change something. And my voice was not the same. It sounded good. It didn't sound bad or better or worse, in a different place in my body. And I said, well, we better keep the original because I don't want to sound like I'm two different people. To my ears, maybe I was the only person who could really tell, but I could hear it. I said, that's not how I sounded on that day in October. The day in January, I sound different. Every day, your voice is different. Perfect is relative. I was learning a brand new song. There's 3 songs I'm learning right now that I want to put into my set next week when I have 2 different gigs on Sunday and Tuesday. So my goal is I have 3 new songs, which is a lot to learn quickly and make them, quote, perfect. I said, my goal is to go and sing these songs well, be authentic, communicate with the audience. That will be perfect for me that day. If that is my goal, to sing a new song in a fun way, that will be perfect. Maybe some notes were off or I didn't do the scatter improv the way I might do it in a month or two. But if I can get it out there and people enjoy it and I feel like it was accurate, that will be perfect for that day. So to your point, it's not a fixed star. It has to move. And I think especially as humans, as physical beings, a voice, a vocalist is affected by so many different factors. You have to give yourself a little bit of a wiggle room there, a chance.
I'm thinking now about the notes you learned for the song note for note. You said, well, I work and I work. I drove my roses crazy and maybe my neighbors too. I was trying and trying and trying. And finally, one day it settled and I had it. And now I remember it. Body is the instrument, as we have heard many times in the theater world. The body is the instrument. And once the body has it has it, which suggests the idea of the body participating in the unfolding opportunities to allow different versions of perfectionism to emerge.
That's exactly right. It's different versions of perfection. And the body does remember. There are songs that I haven't sung in many, many years. And I'll say, oh, I should try this song from a show I did. And your body remembers, my voice remembered how to put those notes in there. Whereas some of those notes today, be like, oh, I really don't want to belt a high B flat. But in some songs, I'll start singing it and my voice remembers. I said it just flipped right in there and it hit it hard. So your body remembers the songs that I haven't thought about in many, many years. Maybe I learned growing up or something, and my body remembers how to sing it. And that is really amazing. And I do think that's why it takes a little bit of time to get a song in your voice where it just is there. You don't have to think about it. I don't have to navigate this note and that note and bridge the gap where the break is. Like I have to think about a song when I'm learning it, how I'm going to hit the notes. But once you learn it, it's in your body. These Gershwin songs I've been singing in my Cabaret for a year and a half and on the album, like I can sing the whole thing for you right now. It's in my voice. It's in my body. I don't have to think about it. It's so joyful because it's comfortable and fun.
When you are doing this work and you're on stage in front of a live audience, fully engaged, fully moving in the direction of the kind of perfectionism you're trying to achieve within the context of the concert or whatever it is you're doing, how does it transform you personally inside? Does it do things for you emotionally that you haven't experienced before? How does that inform your life beyond the gig that you're doing or the singing you're doing?
I think when I'm singing in a concert or a stage production, there's a certain level when you're really in the moment in a song and you feel like things are really going well. You're connected to the song, the orchestra or the band or your pianist together in this great symbiosis. To me, it feels like a euphoria. You're high on life. You get to this pinnacle where you are feeling so joyful and happy and euphoric. It's a dopamine rush, a chemical rush that you feel it. And there's kind of nothing like it when you're holding on to that note or feeling that emotion and it's just, quote, perfect. Then that is something you don't forget. And I feel like when I feel that and when I'm thinking about it the next day or the next night, it spurs you onward because it's almost like I remember how that felt. I want that feeling again. It's inspiring, I think. It perpetuates itself. You have the great experience. You feel the joy. You feel like you've accomplished what you want. You communicate with the audience, and then you want to do it again. So I don't know if athletes feel this way. They must, like when they win a race or whatever you're doing. It inspires you to keep going on. You don't want to forget the next day. Say, I remember that I had such a great gig last night. I really loved this moment. I want to try this new song. So you keep getting inspired by your creativity. If I take a break and I'm not singing for a few weeks or I'm away from that, I start getting a little anxious. I said, I want that feeling again. I don't want to lose where I was. I want to keep being creative and inspiring myself to try new things or find new songs. I'm always listening to new songs. What can I do with it? Can I add something to it? Is it just been done too much? It's like a snowball effect. I have to make sure that I keep doing that. If I'm not singing every day, it's got to be every other day. Or if I'm not up in front of an audience, once a week, I should go find an open mic and try out a new song because you have to keep inspiring yourself. That's how I keep myself fresh, I think.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. You have to keep inspiring yourself. As you were talking, I was thinking about people who are listening. Most people don't have the chance to stand on the stages like you do and sing. They haven't had the training you have. And yet, I'll bet most people listening to this show have had an opportunity at one time in their life to sing happy birthday to somebody they cared about.
True.
And I'm wondering if the same dopamine feeling comes over somebody singing happy birthday in a very casual situation, maybe not as intensely, or maybe even more intensely. What do you think about that?
I bet it does, because I know there's been a lot of research about how singing communally, whether it's happy birthday in a group or in a church choir or wherever, at a protest, at a concert, I know it does great things for your brain and it brings such joy. That's why people continue to sing in these group settings, whether or not they're trained or not, it doesn't matter, but it brings such joy and such community. So I think anytime people sing together, they feel happy. I see it when I'm in a show and there's maybe a moment of audience participation. And I say, well, clap with me here or sing along here. I do that every once in a while. And people are just waiting. They're waiting to sing this part. You can see it. They're like, oh, I want to sing this part. I love this song. Sing the Queen song, Crazy Little Thing Called Love. And they love singing along the chorus part. And you can just feel it when people want to sing. They want to join in to show their happiness, to show their joy. I know it benefits people, whether you're singing happy birthday in a group or wherever you are. People want to join in. They want to sing along. It's, like in a euphoria dopamine rush. You don't have to be a solo singer, but I know there's plenty of opportunities for karaoke bars. People love karaoke. They just love it. I never really loved karaoke because I was like, well, I don't like to sing it exactly the way it's written here. And really, I like to sing in a live group. And I was kind of snobby about it, but I went one time with a friend and people are so happy to sing those songs, and I think it's wonderful and hilarious. Apparently, everyone wants to be a singer. I got a lot of competition out there.
You do have a lot of competition. It's interesting as we talk, I've never been able to hit those notes. For some reason, I can't hear music in my head the way you can. I can see multi-dimensional rooms. I can see the room we were in at your sister's house 20-some years ago. I can still see that room. I can feel it. I can almost smell it, but I can't hear the notes in my head like the song was running. On that point, I've often thought I can't sing because what I wanted to do was sing like you, and I'm not able to do that. And then somewhere along the way, maybe 10 years ago, I wish it had been earlier in my life, I realized I don't have to sing. All I have to do is talk it. And I'm singing for myself.
Yes.
And I'm participating in that harmonious need that we all have to synchronize with all of the songs the earth sings. The earth is full of vibrations, and we are one of those vibrations.
Absolutely.
I have a question for you as we close this out and say goodbye. What is challenging you now that you have returned back to the songs? I'm back, you said. I'm here. I'm here to stay. What does being here to stay mean for you? And what does tomorrow look like as a creative for you?
Well, I think the challenge for me is to continue to explore different songs and different composers. I found that I really enjoy focusing on a composer. I really enjoyed the Gershwin. And my next challenge is finding what I want to focus on next, because I have such an interest in so many types of songs, old songs, new songs, songs on the radio, and I'm trying to figure out how I can interpret them in a new way. So that's really the challenge, is deciding what my next project is. I was thinking about doing a Cole Porter show. I had done a Cole Porter in the Bossa Nova, another event. I really enjoyed that. And then I was looking at a lot of Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn songs. So I'm learning some of those. And those are very challenging because the melody line is really unique and very fun to learn. So my challenge is to find the next step. What is it going to be? Composer? Is it going to be a style of music that I want to focus on? So I'm exploring that right now in my next gigs. I'm doing a little gig at the White Plains Jazz Festival on September 11th. And I want that to be more pure jazz focused, less theater adjacent. So that is my challenge now. finding the next big project. And I'm exploring that as I do my live gigs. What songs really speak to me? What am I feeling in my heart that is a good song for me that I want to turn into a theme and do possibly another cabaret with a theme on that. Maybe that will happen in spring of 2026. I'm also at the same time expanding my cabaret show, my Gershwin show, which was called Rise Up Singing, and that is being expanded into a 4-person cast that will be done at a theater in Pennsylvania next May. So I'm working on that. So I have a few projects out there, but it's making sure I challenge myself, find the next project, and, keep singing and getting better gigs. Always the challenge, get a better gig.
What would a better gig look like for you?
Well, there's a few spots that I want to work in New York City that are a little more prominent venues. I'd like to eventually do my show at Birdland maybe in 2026. That's kind of a goal. I played some other jazz clubs in the city. And I'd like to try some more festivals. I'm in my first festival, as I mentioned, the White Plains Jazz Festival. And I'd like to challenge myself to do that, be in a different environment, a bigger event where I have to maybe be more spontaneous. And it's definitely a little scarier because if you're at a bigger festival, you have more demands. You have people who are more qualified to review you. So it's constantly putting yourself out there. I've definitely invited stress and chaos into my life, going back in the business. And people are like, how's it going? I said, well, it's great. I'm happy. I said, but I've invited a lot of stress into my life. And as my brother, our mutual friend, keeps saying to me, he's like, it has got to be fun. I said, it is fun. But I set new challenges for myself. Well, I want to do this gig. I want to get to this festival. I want to learn this song. So, I'm constantly challenging myself. And it's great. I don't want to be sedentary and not be singing.
That sounds like PJ. It's got to be fun. Got to be fun.
Gotta be fun.
Last question. What premier jazz festival or music festival would you really like to play in?
Oh, well, I'd love to one day get to the Montreal Jazz Festival. I think that would be a really great thing. There's a great jazz festival in Detroit I'd love to do. Some upstate New York I'd like to do. But I gotta admit, my real desire, and I've said it in the world, I want to work at a jazz festival in Italy. I want to do like Umbria Jazz or the Bologna Jazz Festival or the smaller ones like the Piacenza or Pienza, or because I speak Italian and I have family there. And to me, that would be the ultimate. I think they like Gershwin, they like the American songbook over there. But to be able to be in Italy singing jazz for people who appreciate it, even at one of the smaller festivals, I would die a happy woman. So let's hope that happens.
Juliet Ewing, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Navé, so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate it.
And there you go, my friends. Thus concludes my conversation with Juliet Ewing. Since we have a little time before the top of the hour, what I would like to do now is offer you a few songs from Juliet's new album. So here we go.
A stranger in the city, out of town were the people I knew. I had that feeling of self-pity, what to do, what to do, what to do. The outlook was decidedly blue. But as I walked through the foggy streets alone, it turned out to be the luckiest day I've known. A foggy day in London town had me low, it had me down. I viewed the morning with alarm. The British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wondered, could this thing last? But the age of miracles hadn't passed, for suddenly I saw you there, and through foggy London town the sun was shining everywhere. The British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wonder, could this thing last? But the age of miracles hadn't passed, for suddenly I saw you there, and through foggy London town, and through foggy London town, and through foggy London town, the sun was shining everywhere. I got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more. I got daisies in green pastures, I got my man who could ask for anything more. Old man Trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him rob my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my man who could ask for anything more, who could ask for anything more. Da-da-da-da, dee-da-ba-da-da-dee. Sha-da-da-da, ba-ba-dee-da-da. La-ba-da-dee-da-da, sha-ba-da-dee-da-da, ba-dee-dee-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-ba-ba-da-dee-da-da-da-da-da. Old man Trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him round my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my man who could ask for anything more. Days can be sunny with never a sigh. I don't need what money can buy. Birds in the trees sing their day full of song. Why shouldn't we sing along? I'm chipper all the day, happy with my lot. How do I get that way? Look at what I got. I got drums, I got bass, I got the keys. Got a lot of rhythm, well singing my rhyme, fascinating rhythm. While I'm biding my time with you, my sweet embraceable you, nobody but you. It's definitely nice work if you can get it, because I'm looking for a boy, the man I love. Let's do it again, who cares? Love is in the air. I'm never lonely, my one and only, my porky. You can't get away. Let's call the calling off of old man Trouble. I don't mind him, you won't find him, you won't find him round my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my man who could ask for anything more, who could ask for anything more.
And that was Juliet Ewing giving us a sample of some of her work from the Great American Songbook. And on that note, thank you very much for tuning in to this show, Twice 5 Miles Radio, fertile ground for conversations worth listening to and remembering. I'm your host, James Navé. This show airs every weekend on WPVM-FM in Asheville and KCEI Cultural Energy Radio FM in Taos, New Mexico. Thank you, Walter Parks, for our theme song, walterparks.com for more on Walter's music. Thank you, Devine Dial, for managing WPVM-FM in Asheville, and Robin Collier for doing the same in Taos. If you'd like to reach me, Navé at jamesnavé.com. Navé is spelled N-A-V-E. And if you are interested in writing, you can always join our free Imaginative Storm Zoom writing gathering. We meet every Saturday between 12 and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and every Thursday between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We would love it if you would like to join us. As I've said, it's always free, and you can find the Zoom link just below the fold at jamesnavé.com. You can find the link to that gathering at jamesnavé.com, just under the fold. Again, thank you ever so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you come back soon. Till then, I'll catch you on that turnaround somewhere down the line.